Good morning, dear ones. I'm so glad to see you this morning. Come on in, have a seat. We're ready to begin. And welcome to those of you that are online this morning. Welcome to Golden Gate Center for Spiritual Living. I'm Reverend Mary Murray Shelton. I'm the community spiritual leader here. And we are a community that welcomes everybody and recognizes that whatever spiritual path you are on is the right one for you. And we'd love to welcome you as part of our community. If you have not been here before, come on back next time. But for now, and particularly for those of you online, be sure you mark this so you can come back again next week. Right now, what we're going to do is say good morning to each other. So take a moment, stand up, look around, go say hello to people you haven't seen, introduce yourself to anybody you don't know, and just generally make each other welcome. And for those of you online, give yourselves a hug. We welcome you and are especially glad to have you with us. Get yourself another cup of coffee in just a few minutes. We will begin the service with a morning song. All right, well, I'm happy to welcome Amy Steinberg back this morning as our musician online. And like most of the ones that we have here on Sunday, she is a Posse award-winning singer, songwriter, storyteller. She started doing music and theater when she was 4. She lives in Asheville, North Carolina, and she is the creatrix of the House of Love and Light, which is an online spiritual community. She plays piano and guitar, and she's got this playful, funny, flirtatious kind of thing going on that she does with her music, and deeply soulful. So we're just really happy to welcome her back this morning, and I'm going to invite you to stand and sing in just a second when I get my connection back. Hello, MacBook. Yes, sometimes it'll talk to me. Usually it does. Okay, hang on. Some days are just like this, you know. Anybody ever watch Friends? You know the opening theme song? Yes. But no one told you life was going to be this way. All right, come on. I don't know why you're not. There we go. Okay, move on. Now you talk to her. Okay, so far so good. Please stand. And we're going to sing the opening song, which is one that we know. It's a Harold Payne song. So here's Amy.
Good morning, Golden Gate. It's Amy Steinberg here. So happy to be with you for another Sunday. We're going to open with a beautiful Harold Payne song to set us up for the message today. Something wonderful is happening right here and right now. I hope you'll sing along. It's a great tune. It's always good when you're looking for the good. Something wonderful is happening to me right here, right now. Something wonderful is happening to me right here, right now. And I can feel it in my body. I can feel it in my body. I can feel it in my soul. I can feel it in my heart. And I won't let go. Something wonderful is happening to me right here, right now. That's the whole song. Something wonderful, yeah, come on. Something wonderful is happening to me right here, right now. Again, something wonderful, ooh, something wonderful is happening to me right here, right now. And I can feel it, and I can feel it in my body, my soul. I can feel it in my soul. I can feel it in my heart, and I won't let go. Something wonderful, oh yeah, something wonderful is happening to me right here, right now. Something wonderful, yeah.
Be seated. And this is a time that we're going to now recenter ourselves and go within. So we've done our external good mornings and singing, so hopefully we're awake. And now we're going to go within and get centered. So I want to invite our morning practitioner, Leslie Giannetti, to come up and give us the opening right now.
So just turning within to our sacred center, where something wonderful is always operating for the greater good. And this wonderful, infinite, magnificent, all-in-all power is the infinite life pouring itself across the past, the present, and the future into this perfect moment of the eternal now, where each one is an individualized expression of this wonderful life, which is always seeking new ways to express through each one. So I speak my word for each one, and I claim an opening in consciousness for a resonant realization of the light of life, which is always urging each one on as a spark, as a divine spark of vitality and inspiration, that this one reminds each other of the call home. Be still and know, and trust. And trusting this light within always manifests in absolute fulfillment, in alignment, in oneness, where wonderful things are reflected out into conditions and circumstances, lighting the way for others. So I give thanksgiving right now for the opening that takes place in consciousness, which allows for something wonderful within to be reflected without. And I release my word to the law of mind, which embraces my word as a brand new creation, ready to be celebrated in this moment, during this service, through Reverend Mary, and forever. And so it is.
This is a song of mine called Rise. Look up and you try to go up, look down and you probably fall down. Place your attention on where you want to be and you will be there eventually. Think good and you try to feel good. Think love, you're probably falling in love. Watch your thoughts, choose carefully, and you will become just what you want to be. Rise, rise out of the old paradigm. Rise, rise into the presence of the divine. Rise, rise out of the old paradigm. Rise, rise into the presence of the divine. Look out and you're sure to go out. Look back, you'll probably fall back. Place your attention on where you want to be and you will be there. Yes, I promise that you get there. Oh, so easily, yeah. Rise, rise. Rise, rise into the presence of the divine. Look up and you're sure to go up. Look down and you probably fall down. Place your attention on where you want to be and you will be there. Yes, I promise that you'll get there. Oh, I know that you'll be there. Eventually. Woo! Yeah.
Yes, yes. All right. That's not where that goes. So interesting. Did they rearrange themselves while I was... There we go. All right. It is 2023. Here we are. And as we move into more of living out loud, this month we're talking about how to see through negative circumstances and conditions. I was at an event last night with some friends and acquaintances and also people that I didn't know at all. And I was having a conversation with several people that I hadn't met. And I was really struck by the positivity and optimism and relaxed, peaceful openness of some of the folks that I was talking to. And I was just realizing in that moment how the energy that they were exuding was differing from my own, where I was in that moment thinking about the difficulty of various conditions. And it just reminded me how important it is for us to pay attention to when we get into that and to shift it. It's not always easy to shift it, but that's kind of the way in which we return ourselves from a moment of distress into a moment of greater peacefulness, is to notice that's where we are and then make the shift. And of course, noticing is the trick, because when I forget who I really am, when I forget that separation is an illusion, when I forget that there's only one and then the universe supports me unconditionally, when I get in that hole, sometimes I'm reluctant to get out. I don't know why that is. It doesn't make any sense, but I get somehow sticky and attached to my own negativity. And that is when I really need to notice and pull myself together to make a shift. So here's a lovely little story. At 8:10 a.m., the phone rang. It was my husband who had left much earlier because he was presenting at a teachers' conference that morning. "Help!" he pleaded. "My session starts at 9 and I've forgotten my handout at home." So I quickly gathered the children, dropped my son at school, and spent a frantic half hour wending my way downtown to the convention center. And as I drove, I glanced down at my husband's handout, and printed across the top, I saw the title, "If I'm so organized, why am I frazzled?" This was the presentation he was giving. And I think, I believe it was somebody like Richard Bach who said, "We teach best what we most need to learn." So we find again and again that what presents itself in our lives for our opening is oftentimes stuff that we already feel like we know really well, but living in alignment with it all the time is challenging. And so the universe brings us opportunities to practice so that we are trustworthy as people who are examples of that or speaking about it or leading it. And the necessity then for all of us, because we're all examples to somebody and leaders for people, is to notice when that happens to us. That's the first thing. Because the question becomes, how am I going to remember? Or how am I going to find a way to not forget? Or if I do forget, how am I going to remember? So the question then for me is, what is going to wake me up to that? What is going to support me in remembering who I am. Albert Einstein says, a person experiences life as something separated from the rest, a kind of optical delusion of consciousness. Our task must be to free ourselves from this self-imposed prison, and through compassion, to find the reality of oneness, that we are connected to each other and to the universe. And when we feel most disconnected from that, it's generally ourselves that we've gotten disconnected from somehow, our soul essence. So how are we going to remember? One of the things that I started doing quite a few years ago now, and I don't remember to do it a lot of times, which is ironic because it was to remind me, but there was something I didn't like to do, and I figured the only way to get myself to do it was to link it up with something that I liked, so that I could have that other thing happening while I was doing whatever it was I didn't like so much, so that I'd be distracted from what I didn't like and I would actually get it done. Does that make any sense? I mean, I find that I need mind tricks sometimes for myself to get myself to do something or to stop doing something. So the first thing we have to do, I think, or not necessarily the first thing, but one of the things that can be helpful is to trick ourselves into remembering something. And so to remember that we are one, we can post affirmations around the house. We can listen to podcasts that are inspiring. We can link a particular spiritual practice to something else that we really like. I can remember I used to live in the Central District in Seattle, which is kind of like, I don't know now, but it was sort of semi-ghetto back then. But I had a friend that owned a house there, and for the time being, my husband at the time and I were rooming with him. So in the morning, there was a porch out front, and I was practicing A Course in Miracles. So every morning I do my lesson for that morning by going out onto the porch, this was in warm weather, with my cup of coffee and sitting down out there, because I always love to have my morning coffee, and then doing my lesson. And it reminded me to do my lesson every morning, but it also was just a very pleasant experience to go and sit out there in the warm air and have my coffee and do my morning practice. And so when those things were all linked together, it wasn't hard for me to remember to do my morning practice, which helped set me up well for the entire day. So if you have difficulty getting yourself to do a morning practice of some kind, whether it's just reading a morning affirmation or morning meditation, do it along with something that you really like, that you're going to do anyway, like having your morning tea or coffee or sitting out in the garden, or whatever it might be. Link it up with something that you know you're going to do that you like, and start to do those two things together. You can make a lovely little sanctuary corner in your home that's beautiful, where it's really attractive to you, and kind of a little magnetic space of peace, where you can go and plant yourself in the morning to do a little morning reading or something like that. Do your morning affirmations, listen to podcasts while you're out doing your walking, listening to something inspiring, or listening to, ministers' talks or something like that that lifts you up, and reading something every day to direct your consciousness. So when we do those things, we start off well at the beginning of the day, and it gives us a direction to go, particularly when we know we're facing stuff in that day that could be challenging for us or that we don't really want to do. Anybody ever have mornings like that? We have anything you don't really want to do coming up that day? Deepak Chopra said, "The collective dream is the hypnosis of social conditioning. Only sages, psychotics, and geniuses manage to break free." Sages, psychotics, and geniuses. Okay, well, I hope I'm not psychotic, and I don't think I'm a genius, but perhaps I could be a sage if I remember some of these things. So I want to be able to use the tools that I already know to assist me, so that I build up a kind of consciousness resistance, like we build up a physical immunity resistance to illnesses. I build up a consciousness resistance to my own reluctance or my own negativity or my own resistance, when something comes up during my day that threatens to knock me off kilter. When I was young, I used to think that something could happen that might ruin my day. And I would kind of affirm that, like if it happened, well, this day is wrecked, that's the end of that. And at some point in my early sort of consciousness exploration around New Thought, I either read or encountered an idea that was like, one thing cannot ruin your day unless you make it so. Revelation. I have a choice about that. I could let this ruin my day, or I could say, okay, well, that was no fun. Next, let's move on. What can I look forward to? What can I embrace or move toward? Or how can I shift this feeling or idea that I have in this moment to move where I want to, instead of hanging on to this thing all day long? I mean, what a waste of time and energy. But I had cultivated that as a practice because somehow it was in my head that something could ruin my day, and I couldn't do anything about that, which absolutely is not true. Can you relate to this at all? Anybody find this happening? Ernest Holmes, the founder of Centers for Spiritual Living, said, to practice the presence of God is to awaken within us the Christ consciousness. It's always there, but sometimes it's asleep. And so we need a little goose to wake it up, occasionally. James Twyman in The Non-Dual Universe said, eternity is a reality within the mind of God. Therefore, it's also in your mind. There's only one difference. The experience of your eternal nature is buried beneath all the illusions you have claimed until now. And so it seems to be limited. If eternal life is true for God, then it must be true for all. God's eternal nature is yours now and forever. And it's true even when we forget it, even when we behave in ways that do not match that, even when we don't believe it about ourselves. We cannot change, destroy, damage, or dissolve what we are, the essence of what we are. And we will remember and discover that. Some folks might not remember it in this lifetime. Oh, well. If we are eternal beings, then remembering that we are and discovering that and getting better at remembering it more of the time is just a natural unfoldment of our own beingness. So we're going in that direction anyway. We might as well row downstream rather than upstream, yeah? Pema Chodron, who is the abbess of a Buddhist monastery, Tibetan Buddhist monastery in Canada, says all these trips that we lay on ourselves, the fearing that we're bad and hoping that we're good, the identities that we so dearly cling to, the rage, the jealousy, and the addictions of all kinds, never touch our basic wealth. They're like clouds that temporarily block the sun. But all the time, our warmth and brilliance are right there. This is who we really are. We are one blink of an eye away from being fully awake. One blink of an eye might be the one you're blinking right now. Why not? Ram Dass said once that every moment that we live is orchestrated to be an optimal moment when we could wake up. So there's like a lingering invitation that floats around us all the time. Will this be the moment? Will the next moment be the moment? We don't know, but we can court and cultivate that moment by reminding ourselves of who we are and what we're doing here. And so that's the process we're in all the time. And then the challenge becomes, well, once I do remember, right? So I catch myself in this, and I remember what I want to be doing or the direction I want to be going, and yet in that moment, I just stubbornly want to cling to this grudge, or, because they were really wrong, and it really hurt my feelings, and I didn't like it, and they should apologize for that, and fix it and make it right with me, and I'm not going to let go of this until they do. So who am I actually hurting, or who's actually hurting me? Maybe in that initial moment, somebody thoughtlessly or intentionally said or did something that hurt my feelings, yeah? But in all the moments that follow that, who's hurting my feelings? Not them. I'm recreating it over and over and over again. And so rather than continuing to wound, injure, and hurt myself, the best thing I could do for me is to let it go and get back to. But there is something compelling about that, grumpy something. There's something sticky about that. I don't know if that's true for you, but I think it's true for most of us, where I know that I should, I know that I'd feel better if I did, and I just don't want to, because I'm not done being mad yet, or I'm not done being self-righteous yet, or, I've climbed up so high on my high horse that it's a long way down, all those kinds of things. So the question then becomes, well, I remember, now what? What do I do now that I remember? How do I get myself unstuck from this? And in The Science of Mind, Ernest Holmes says, the belief in a life apart from good is a dream from which we must awaken if we are to taste the waters of reality which flow from the source of life. This awakening is a process of evolution. A little here and a little there, until the whole eye is opened and we see that life is neither separate from God nor different from good. Life is God, and good is the only power there is or can be. To awaken oneself is to be healed, made prosperous, happy, and satisfied, to be made every whit whole, to be complete as we were intended to be. God is a God, bless you, God is a God of the living, not of the dead. So what do I need to do first? Well, forgive myself. I need to recognize that, yeah, I'm really victim-y right now, and I like it, even though it's not comfortable and I'm not happy. And that's not what I should be doing. That's not what I teach people to do. That's not what I talk about. So now I feel guilty. So what do I do? If I'm going to let it go, I have to forgive myself in that moment and go, okay, take a breath. You can shift. All right, it's time to shift. And I think of Ram Dass saying, I used to every year do something for my spiritual growth. And this particular year I was in love, and I was kind of pubescent in this love. And I was going through this experience of jealous rage. And I was sitting in the bathtub crying with jealous rage. And I was really hurting and jealous and angry. And I was weeping with this frustration. And this voice in my head said, jealous rage, far out. Just noticing it. Now there's the moment of laughter or awakeness when something within us comments on how attached we are. But you're really getting into this, aren't you? Okay, well, enjoy yourself. Well, by that time it's too funny. You've already let it go, So we want to forgive ourselves and then begin again. And that's that moment when you say, I'm not going to let this ruin my day, or I'm not going to continue in this vein because I'm just getting more and more wound up, more and more upset, more and more angry or self-righteous or hurt or whatever it might be. And that, I've done that. You know what? That does not ever work. It never leads to satisfaction. It never leads to a feeling of fulfillment or happiness. Never. Now, how can I be so attached to something that I'm already aware fails to work 100% of the time? I don't know. There's something in our human condition that's just stubborn in that way. But the blessing is that we have the ability to question it, to actually say, okay, no, done, next. How do I start again? Okay, maybe I need to go for a walk. Maybe I need to pull out my affirmations. Maybe I need to call a practitioner. Maybe I need to have a long conversation with a friend. Whatever it is, I want to do something that will help me shift. At this point, Mother Teresa said, if we have no peace, It is because we have forgotten that we belong to each other. So when I'm condemning somebody else for some tone of voice they had, or some words that they said, or something they did or didn't do, I'm forgetting that they belong to me and I belong to them, and we are reflections of each other. So some part of me also is doing that to me. Otherwise, I wouldn't have a reaction to it. I'm taking a hold of that thing and applying it to myself. It's not them, it's me. You know, in the Four Agreements, Don Miguel Ruiz says, you know, nothing anybody says is about you. It's always about them. Don't take anything personally. And it makes such good sense. If only we could remember to do that all the time. Well, I guess that what happens is the more we practice reminding ourselves of that, the more likely we are to just stop taking stuff personally. Terry Cole Whitaker said once that her mother said to her in frustration once, as Terry was an adult, and she said, "Seems like no matter what I say to you, I can't insult you." And it was because Terry was in this practice of never taking anything personally. And her mother was frustrated and offended by the fact that she couldn't upset her anymore. And so, but see, that's not Terry's responsibility either, because both the effort and the frustration of it not working were not living in her. They were living somewhere else over here, you know? And maybe her unwillingness to be insulted was that frustration actually was a teaching of some sort, whether Terry actually intended that or not. It was a teaching for her mom that if this person can't be insulted, maybe I don't have to be when somebody is behaving that way toward me. Are you with me here on this? Yeah? So we want to then say, what do I do to anchor this recognition? Valerie Cower said, there is a voice inside each of us called humai, the I that names itself as separate from you. It resides in the bowl that holds our individual consciousness, but separateness is an illusion. When we quiet the chatter in our minds through music or meditation or recitation or song, the boundaries begin to disappear. The bowl breaks. For a moment, we taste the truth, as sweet as nectar. We are part of one another. Joy rushes in. Long after the moment passes, we can choose to remember the truth of our interconnectedness, that we belong to one another. We can choose to see no stranger. So we want to then anchor what we know. And I love this quote from Alan Cohen. He says, "Those who love you are not fooled by mistakes you have made or dark images you hold about yourself. They remember your beauty when you feel ugly, your wholeness when you feel broken, your innocence when you feel guilty, and your purpose when you feel confused." So when we want to anchor what we know, sometimes we need allies to assist us, our practitioners, our friends. The next time I forget, how am I going to get back to center if I'm having a hard time with that? And so I think about this song that is a duet that Michael Gott does with Melissa Felipe, which is called When I Forget. And it's, when I forget, will you remember for me? And when you forget, I will remember for you. And it's such a beautiful thing because for most of us, we haven't crossed over that place where we remember all the time who we are. And so having allies in our lives who see the truth about us when we can't, who see through the illusion of our bad mood or negativity or smallness in that moment, and still see who we truly are, that seeing or thinking of us in that way helps lift us up. Sometimes when I'm working with a client and they're upset about the way somebody is behaving or their relationship with this person, I will say, rather than trying to convince them of anything or make them any different, whenever you think of them, just see them happy and contented and fulfilled and centered. Just imagine them that way, particularly if they're going through a time of turmoil in their lives. Just think of them that way instead of in the upset version that is plaguing you. Think of them that way because you're doing that is connected to them and it will help them remember who they are. You don't have to say anything or give advice or pass judgment. Just you inside yourself remember the truth of who they are. And that opens a door, not only back to you, but also back to themselves, back to who they are. And having the support of others makes the whole thing easier. Sometimes support comes about in ways that is so simple, and it changes everything. You ever had somebody say one thing to you, and it has an effect on you that changes your attitude about something, your thinking about something, or your sense of connection with them? Just one thing can make a shift positively or negatively. So this is a story about that. There was a renowned therapist, hypnotherapist, who was extremely gifted, Milton Erickson. He used to work with people in such a way that just by saying to them something like, would you be open to seeing it another way? Just by saying that in a particular way, he could induce hypnotic trance in another person. So he would often help his clients by telling them some kind of a story while they were in that state. And this story, I think, was a true story, and he was telling it to a group of colleagues at a meeting, talking about how something simple can shift somebody completely. And this is about a man named Joe. At the age of 12, Joe was expelled from school for beating up other kids in his class, along with vandalism and other assorted misdemeanors. After stabbing his father's farm animals with a pitchfork and setting fire to the barn, his parents took him to court and had him committed to Wisconsin State Industrial School for Boys. At the age of 15, the industrial school paroled him. On his way home, Joe was arrested for burglary and promptly returned to the industrial school, where he's had to stay until he was 21 years old. By that time, Joe's parents were dead, and they had disposed of their property, leaving Joe without any inheritance. Upon being given a suit and $10 at his discharge, Joe headed back home again and was arrested again for burglary on his way, and this time was sent to the Young Men's Reformatory in Green Bay. He served every day of his sentence. In other words, no time off for good behavior. After his release from the reformatory, Joe went into the town of Green Bay and was arrested for burglary again, and this time sent to state prison. When he completed every day of that sentence, he was released and on his way back home was arrested for burglary again and sent back to prison for another term. And after serving every day of that term, he was released and headed back home again. This time, said Erickson, he made it all the way back home. And as soon as he walked into town, everybody started saying, "Look out, Joe's back." And sure enough, by the end of his fourth day back in town, some merchants noticed items missing from the stores. Somebody else reported a motorboat that had suddenly disappeared, and everybody knew who the culprit was. Now, it happened that a rich farmer who lived outside of town had a daughter named Susie. And Susie was about 5'10", good-looking, famous for her dressmaking and cooking, and popular with all the young men in town. But everybody felt sorry for Susie. She was still unmarried at 23. And in those days, that should not have been. Everybody thought that Susie was just too choosy. Well, one day Susie was on her way into town on an errand, and Joe happened to be leaning up against the front door of one of the stores as Susie was making her way down the street. And when he saw Susie coming, Joe swung around and stood in her path. He looked her up and down very thoroughly and very quietly, and Susie, with equal poise, looked Joe up and down very thoroughly too. And finally Joe said, "Can I take you to the dance this Friday night?" The town had a dance every Friday night, and Susie was much in demand at those dances by all the eligible young men. And when Joe asked her, "Can I take you to the dance?" Susie replied, "You can, if you're a gentleman." So Joe stepped out of the way and let her go on. The next morning, merchants who had reported missing items were pleased to find boxes full of stolen goods back at their front doors. The motorboat that had gone missing was suddenly back where it belonged, and somebody saw Joe heading out of town towards Susie's father's farm. That Friday, Joe and Susie went dancing together, and they danced every dance together. Word got around that Susie's dad had hired Joe to work on his farm. They fixed Joe a room in the barn, and Joe turned out to be the best worker Susie's father had ever had. Every Friday night, Joe and Susie went dancing. Soon the whole community was buzzing because Joe and Susie had been seen going for a drive every Saturday night. They started going to church together. And within a year, Joe and Susie were married, and Joe moved from the barn into the house. Joe was still the best hired hand imaginable, and Joe became the best neighbor people had ever known in those parts. Before too long, people began to forget about Joe's convict days. They even elected him to be president of the local school board. And in his spare time, Joe went back to the state reformatory for young men and volunteered to work with young offenders. He brought them back to work on the farm and managed to rehabilitate quite a few of them. That was when Joe met the renowned hypnotherapist, Milton Erickson. Joe ran into him in the hallway one day as Erickson was making his rounds. Joe told him, "There's an old record at the industrial school you ought to read sometime, Doc, about a guy named Joe." Erickson did read it. That's how he learned about Joe. All the psychotherapy Joe ever received, said Erickson, was, "You can, if you're a gentleman." That one sentence turned a life around in an instant. How is it that he was so receptive that that one statement, the possibility that he could be a gentleman, lodged itself within him with such force that it changed his outward behavior 100%, like 180-degree flip of what he had been doing since he was a kid. And so we, with the support of others who know us and care about us and see the good in us, when we have that support and when we give it out to others, we have the opportunity, all of us then, of waking up just a little bit sooner, of re-entering that place of oneness and non-separation where we remember what really is the truth of who we are. Namaste. Oh, thank you. All right, let's take a moment to anchor this now in prayer. So as we turn within, we know right here and now that there's only one. There's only one. It is all there is. Everywhere we look, everywhere we go, and the very moment that we look within ourselves and feel the presence of life within us, the awareness that we carry, every bit of it is the one. The mind of God is not in some far distant corner. It's here within us right now. And therefore, what we need to know is known right where we are. And the truth of who we are has never shifted or moved by so much as 1 millimeter or 1 degree, the wholeness, the completeness, the infinite possibilities are always there, never depleted, never diminished. Infinite possibilities remain infinite no matter how long we live or what we've done. So here and now at this moment, I speak this word for all of us. I release and forgive everything I've ever done, thought, said, or believed that was harmful to myself or anyone else. All of those illusions, I forgive. I forgive anyone, anywhere, in any time or space or being that has felt or done any of that to me or anyone else. The one that is true of all of us is whole now, is unlimited now, is the essence of what we are now. So with celebration at remembering this, with gratitude for the law that manifests this awareness within us more and more, we are very grateful. We marinate in that sense of gratitude, releasing this word, this prayer, into the creative law now, where it is done. Done in the law. We let it go into the heart of God where it always has been the truth. We just let it go and let it be. And together we say, and so it is. Yes, and so it is. And so I invite you now to stand and join me in the morning affirmation. Together. When I forget to appreciate the gifts of freedom I have been blessed with, I call on the universe to remind me. I value my ability to think, speak, and choose freely. When I forget to support these for others, I claim an awakening of wisdom and clarity to remind me and bring me back into balance. And so it is. You may be seated. Thank you. And so this becomes now our sacred time of giving. And I'd like to invite the ushers to come forward now as we prepare to bless the gifts and send them out into the world to do their work. And so we're blessing not only what's being given here in the room, but also what we have been in the process of giving this week in all the ways that we give. If you are online and you'd like to donate to Golden Gate this morning, you can text your donation to the number on the screen, and you can always go to the donate tab on our website. There are all sorts of ways to give. For those of you here this morning, all the ways to give are on the back side of your bulletin in the lower left corner, and you can do any of those now or at any time. And believe me, we just dance when you do that, because it's such a joy to recognize that we are part of a larger, not just organization, we're part of a larger thing that is happening in the world, not only in our organization, but this movement, this energy to open to oneness, to greater wholeness, it's happening in large and small pockets all over the world. And we want to tap into that and remember it, especially when there are so many things reminding us of negative appearances. So let's consciously, together, bless all of what is given right now by saying this blessing together out loud. And you can hold your gift near your heart or in your hands together with a loved one if you're giving it together, as we say this. This gift I give is God in action. I now send it forth to bless and to prosper. I know that everywhere it goes, it is creating a world living in love, one heart and one thought at a time. And so it is.
This is a song that I wrote about giving. You could sing along when you feel you've got it. just love the idea of giving from the heart. I give from my heart, I give without fear, I give out of love, all I need is here, and I know God provides an endless supply. I open my hands and watch my world come alive. I give from my heart, I give without fear, I give out of love, all I need is here, and I know God provides an endless supply. I open my hands and watch my world come alive. I give from my heart, I give from my heart without fear, I give without fear, out of love, I give out of love, all I need is here, and I know God provides an endless supply. I open my hands and watch my world come alive. I watch my world come alive. I watch my world come alive. I give.
Thank you, Amy. So all of us together, on behalf of Golden Gate Center for Spiritual Living, accept and bless this offering and send it out into the world to be a little reminder of who we really are everywhere it goes. And so it is. Now, if you are with us for the very first time this morning, I want to draw your attention to the table on this side back behind us where Galen is holding up the blue card. If you are here for the first time, there are welcome packets back there for you, and we invite you to take one and also any information there you want, and fill out the blue card in the welcome packet and give it to Galen. And she will give you a little book that is our thank you for being here and our invitation to you to come back often. It's a wonderful little tool as a reminder for when you forget. It's filled with affirmations for all kinds of subjects and experiences and topics when we want to recenter ourselves. And for those of you that are online with us for the first time this morning, send an email to revmary, R-E-V-M-A-R-Y, at ggcsl.org, and we will mail you one of these if this is your first time online with us as our gift to you. So email me and we'll send you one of those if this is your first time online with us, and invite your friends to come and join you next time. Also, I want to thank everybody who made this morning possible. The beautiful altar that Leslie Janetti did for us. Where's Leslie? Oh, she's back there now. And you know, if you're wondering why the angel has no head, that is Winged Victory, who is in the Louvre. And it's somebody's recreation kind of her. As Leslie said, when they found the statue, it only had one wing. And I guess these wings are a little more elaborate than the ones she actually had. Nevertheless, so I want to acknowledge Leslie and also everybody, those who brought snacks, our ushers, the people who set up. So let's give everybody a hand in our thanks for that. Also, the Roots class is beginning Tuesday night. If you're interested and you have not signed up, please put your name on the sign-up sheet, or even better, email administrator@ggcsl.org. This is an online class, so those of you out there are also invited. If you've taken foundations, you're eligible to take this. It will be from 6 to 9 on Tuesday night for 10 weeks, and it begins this Tuesday. And registration is already available online, so you can go ahead and register if you want to. And we will email you the link for the classes and the workbook, and you'll be all ready to get started. Yeah, oh, woohoo. Want to let you know that there is another shoreline cleanup happening this coming Saturday from 10 a.m. to noon. And you can show up, the information's on the screen here. You can show up there a little before 10. The gloves, garbage bags, and snacks or sandwiches are provided. You just bring your own water and bring friends, and the weather is getting nice, so it's a great way to just spend a couple hours making a difference and interacting with each other and having a good time. Also, our picnic in the park over here, part of our summer celebration is taking place on Sunday, July 23rd, right after the celebration service. We have the sign-up sheets out now for what you want to bring for the potluck that you're going to share. Make something for about 10 people. And there are lists of things that we need back there. You can look and see what you can bring. That will really help us out. And let us know what that's going to be. And then we will have a great time over here on that afternoon. Also, we are looking for and welcoming more folks to our Sunday teams that greet people at the service, that put out the snacks. And Paula Yu, I'm always telling you to talk to Paula. She's walking back there right now. Turn around and look and see. She's got on a red vest. That's Paula Yu. If you have any questions about being on a Sunday team, Paula heads up all the Sunday teams, and she's the one you want to nab. But if you can't get her, get anybody who's putting cookies out and grab them and just ask about it. It's only one Sunday a month, and it's a good way to bond with other people in the congregation, to get to know a few people and just get more ownership of being part of Golden Gate. Also, just want to remind you that we are welcoming more Sunday snacks, and especially things that are dairy-free or gluten-free or sugar-free for those that need that, and your summer produce that you're bringing that's wonderful. Bring that stuff and help us out with some more snacks on Sunday. That would be great. Also, I want to let you know this Wednesday night is a Taizé meditation. That's a beautiful thing that we do online. Once a month, we do a Taizé on the second Wednesday of the month, and that is silent meditation and prayer and inspirational readings and music for about an hour on that Wednesday night. And everybody's welcome. It doesn't require any experience. There's no cost. So come and join us at 7:15. The link is on the calendar on our website. All right, and that's it for announcements this morning. And so I just want to remind you the prayer table is available. Deborah and Frank are over here this morning, and they're available for prayer after the service. There's also a prayer box there where you can put a written request in, and those will be prayed over throughout this week. I'm going to invite the practitioners to surround the room right now as we do our closing prayer and set you loose into this beautiful sunny Sunday, which we're so grateful to have. So let's take a moment once more to just turn within, and with great gratitude, we bless this day that we have enjoyed here together. We know that it's full of the presence of God, and so we enjoy our fellowship time and our time after we leave the service with great enthusiasm and delight for the beautiful day, for anything that we have learned, any way in which we've grown this morning, for all the wonderful people that we contact before and after the service, and for all the good in our lives. We bless it, we're grateful for it, we're aware of it, we acknowledge it, we let it go with enthusiasm, and together we say, and so it is. Please stand and join us now in the closing blessing and the closing song with Amy Steinberg. So we say our closing blessing in one voice together. I now walk so that whoever walks beside me dwells in the presence of God, and whoever places a hand in mine is lifted, and whoever thinks of me is illumined with God consciousness, for Spirit and all people and I are one eternally, and so it is. All right, here we go. Oh,
We're going to close today.
Well,
with
I'll
the
tell you
love.
after.
This is a song of mine called
I got
Love,
one more thing to
Sweet
tell you.
Love. Another one that you can sing along with. Love, sweet love surrounds me now. It's like this. Love, sweet love surrounds me now. Love, sweet love Love, sweet love surrounds me now.
Love, sweet love surrounds me now.
Comes through.
Love, sweet love
Comes through. Surrounds me now.
Love, sweet love surrounds me now.
Love is the only truth.
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 Let's do it one more time.
Love, sweet love surrounds me now.
Comes through.
Love, sweet love comes through.
Surrounds me now.
Love, sweet love surrounds me now.
Love is the only truth.
Love is the only truth.
Love is the only truth. Yeah.
Love is the only truth.
Love is the only truth. Yeah,
Love is the only truth. And I want to tell you one more thing, which is Jet Walker has an art show, and there's a reception today after the service from now until 2 o'clock. So it's at the Congregational Community Church up on the hill in Tiburon. Go by and join in the reception and congratulate Jet on her art show. All right? Thank you, everybody. Wish each other a happy Sunday and have a great day. Thank you, everybody online.
I'm glad you caught Jet. I was going to hand you
Yeah.
the flyers. Good for you. Great sermon. Thank you.